So today we are joined by Orla Donoghue, who is a life coach for single parents, founder of Solas Coaching, and host of the Single Parent Reset podcast. She helps single parents navigate the challenges of balancing career and family while partnering with organizations to make workplaces more inclusive and supportive for single parents. Today, Orla will be talking to us about the unique challenges single, solo, and co-parents face in between the workplace, from the additional mental load to childcare logistics and everything else in between. During this live, she'll be sharing practical advice for single parents who want to move forward in their career while balancing the realities of parenting alone. This session will focus on building confidence at work, advocating for yourself, and creating the right support around you. Orla will also touch on the steps organisations can take to ensure single parents are not overlooked in the workplace policies and everyday practices. With 1 in 4 families in the UK headed by a single parent, this is a conversation that really needs to be happening now. So welcome, Orla. So thanks so much for joining us. And I want to jump straight into the challenges that single, solo and co-parents face, because in your report that you did with over 300 single parents, you stated that single parents disproportionately experience stress and emotional fatigue, with many of the challenges not only being logistical, but emotional. So, it's a huge thing to be thinking about in your day-to-day life. So in your experience as a coach and as a single parent yourself, what are the main challenges that single parents face? And what impact does that have on their overall confidence?
There are just so many challenges. And I think a lot of the time in the work that I do, particularly when I'm running workshops, one of the first slides I do is I outline all of the unique challenges that single parents are facing. Because a lot of the time, single parents are going around and they're just not even actually pausing to recognize all the weight that they are carrying, all the additional responsibility that they do have. So there is the practical side of things, like the very fact that you are the sole head of your household, and with that comes you carrying out multiple roles. You're the fun parent, you're the strict parent, you're the amazing employee, you're the cleaner, you're the cook, you're the absolutely everything in your household. And a really great way to even understand just how much you are doing is a term that I love is the term double parent. So you're not a single parent, you're in fact a double parent because you are doing the job of two people as one person. And thinking about it through that lens can make you just recognize all of the additional things that you're doing. And then also being the sole head of your household, so it can also be a massive financial strain. And this is one thing that is just not spoken about enough is when you are a single parent, you are the financial provider for your household. And perhaps as a single parent, maybe a lot of your friends are in dual income households and you feel like you cannot help comparing yourself and feeling like you don't add up. And then there's just the logistics of being one person having to do the wraparound care, having to drop off, pick up, and also being in the office or a certain amount of hours in the week, and the absolute stress that that can bring on top of someone. And feeling like there's just no backup, there isn't that additional person at home that a lot of workplaces assume that there's someone else at home. Many single parents, that is not the case. Or maybe like me, for example, I'm from Dublin, I live in London. I do not have grandparents around the corner to pick up and like be able to help out, along with also not having another parent in the household with me. So there are the practical things that can just really weigh you down and really start to have overwhelm, start mounting up and up and up. But on top of that, there's also the emotional side of things. There is the fact that for a lot of single parents, there could be a real sense of loneliness, a real sense of like you're the only one going through this experience of single parenthood, and no one else really gets the unique challenges that you are going through. There's also the stigma, which is much as I would love to say, there's no stigma out there. It's not there. There is still very much so stigma around single parenthood, and with that can bring a lot of not wanting to speak about it in the workplace, feeling like people might judge you, all these different things. And then also there is a real sense of lack of support for single parents. And this can come from a few different ways. One is people are so busy in their life doing their own thing, not recognizing the actual challenges of single parents. But also for a lot of single parents, asking for help can feel like a sign that you failed or you've done something wrong. And this isn't the case. Or also feeling like we need to be hyper independent because we've done everything by ourselves for so long. So we don't want to ask for any help. So this can further make us feel isolated and exacerbated without that additional support that we so much very need. So there's quite a lot of things, and the impact this can have on our confidence is huge because you can just feel like you are trying to do everything, juggle all the balls, and nothing's getting done to the level that you want it to be done. And it just feels like you aren't being able to get everything done to the way you want it to be done. And this can have a real impact on your confidence. because your capacity is more stretched, it can just feel like you aren't being able to get everything done that you would like to get done to the level that you'd like to get it done. But it's a reminder that you are one person doing the job of two people, getting the support that you need, I think is one of the first things that can really help that. But yes, they are some of the challenges, and I can go on and on and on. And I always say to single parents, I don't like to talk about these as a way of like, this is all of our problems, this is everything that it is, isn't it just awful? No, I more to want like to talk about it so that you're aware, like this is actually everything that's on your plate right now. So given that this is everything on your plate, what can we do to help support you? So it's not something to make you feel even worse about your life. It's more for you to recognize and feel empowered to actually start making changes so that life can feel more manageable for you.
That's a really good point, and that's why I wanted to start with that, was almost to validate the way that they might be feeling, maybe all of those things that I think are going on, and maybe it's just them, but actually there are so many other single parents out there feeling exactly the same. And it's not to make it sound worse than it is, because it is a lot. So, understand that and recognize that, and that's a really good place to start, and knowing that you are not alone in this, and there is some things that you can reach out to for help. One of the words that stuck out to me there was the assumption that single parents maybe had the support at home, or they weren't handling it, or maybe that they didn't even share it in the first place because of that stigma attached. And that building yourself as a single parent is maybe not the best thing to do for yourselves, because actually people will assume, because they don't know any better. I guess the more that you share, and I guess talk on this, is hopefully that will bring a level of understanding of what you are going through, and what, some of the challenges that you do face. What would you say would be the first thing that you would say to a single parent that you're about to coach? What is the first way that you would start in helping them build up their confidence again?
The first thing I would say when it comes to the confidence is recognizing, particularly when it comes to the workplace, that you have done absolutely nothing wrong. You're working at the moment in a system, in a workplace system that really just makes it kind of hard for single parents. So recognizing that it's that you've done nothing wrong, your skills, your experience, and everything is still valid. And just because you're a single parent, that does not take away all of the experience that you have and everything that you do bring to the workplace. Yes, the workplace might be hard to navigate as a single parent as your capacities change, but it doesn't change the core of what you bring and your worth. I think that's the most important thing that people need to hear, because I know from my own experience, it felt like, well, what I did wrong, which I now look back easily with hindsight, was when I transitioned into a single parent, becoming a single parent, I continued on with my career as if absolutely nothing in my life had changed, as if my home life was absolutely the same and my, support network and everything was the same. But it wasn't. Everything had completely changed overnight for me. And yet I then went into the workplace with no one, pretended like everything was fine, and continued on to try and progress my career as if I could do it in the exact same way that I was doing it before. And that very quickly led me to burnout. And I think it's the one thing, and I wish I could have gone back and recognizing, okay, yes, there are some challenges in the workplace in terms of more support for single parents and all that stuff, which I'll talk about later. But actually pausing and looking at your own life and thinking, recognizing, okay, this is what's happened. This is how things have changed. What support can I start putting in place now at home to help me so that I can turn up at work and start progressing in my career? And not thinking we're just going to plow on through and pretend like everything's fine, when actually massive shift has happened. And we're going through not just logistical changes, like you may be moving, your home might be changing, your childcare arrangement will be changing, but also there's the emotional toll. Like your whole life may have been thrown up in the air. And it can be a long process where people think it can happen overnight. You suddenly get divorced and you're done and life's happening. Now, it's a long process separation for a lot of people, or whatever route you come into single parenthood. It isn't just an overnight thing. So it can be being able to support yourself throughout that process and maintaining your career as well in a way that's manageable and doesn't lead you to burning out because you think that, well, okay, just because I'm a single parent, I'm not going to let that hold me back and I'm going to plow on as if nothing's changed.
That's right. And like you say, so much has changed. So it is recognizing that as the first step. What would you say then would be the next thing? So once you've recognized, there is this big change, you said looking at the support that you need at home to then be able to navigate your career. Is that where you would start? Is looking at what you need at home first and those changes? How would you advocate for yourself in both places?
Yes, I think there's looking in your own life as to really getting clear. What does your week to week look like? What is your new childcare arrangement? What does that look like? And where can you get the support? And knowing that support doesn't need to be people coming to babysit for you on a Saturday night so you go out. Actually, maybe support is you linking up with some of the school grounds and sharing drop off and pickups, things like that. So getting really clear as to what really support is. So looking at your weeks, when are the pinch points and how could you possibly get some support there? What does that look like? And then also in the workplace, a lot of organizations offer a lot of things already. Look at what's there. Look at the EAP. There may be a free counseling available to you. There may be different things like different leave available to you as well. So look into it, because a lot of the time, maybe there's things there, but we're so busy just trying to scramble to keep on going that we don't even seek these out. Or also, again, with the stigma, not wanting to ask for the help. But when it comes to the workplace, if there's any perks that are there, any additional services, use them. They are there for you to be used. So use them. There's no stigma around you using them. If you're using them, it's helping you further get support that you really, really need. So it's a really is a dual focus in terms of really looking at your home life. What does support look like? And what are ways you can get it? And know that asking for support is not in any way a sign of weakness. It's a sign of someone who knows what they're doing. And I actually wrote down a quote from Nicola Ray, who you had on recently. And I think it's a really good one. It's personal support is not a weakness, it's a requirement for growth. And I think that's such a good one for people to hear. And if you want to grow, if you want to further yourself, you need to start boasting yourself with the scaffolding of support around you, that you can start doing that. And there's absolutely no weakness in doing that at all. And then as for in the workplace, advocating for yourself, it is all about remembering that, okay, your capacity maybe has changed. That does not mean your experience has changed, as I've already mentioned. And you have done nothing wrong because your status has changed to be single parent. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. So remembering that and knowing that you still hold a lot of worth in the workplace, and not letting the stigma hold you back and being confident about that.
I think you're right in that terms of that capacity. Yes, your capacity changed, but your capabilities haven't changed. In fact, that's I think that's again from Nicola Ray last week, that, you know, thinking about that, thinking that actually I've got all of these skills still there, all my experience is still there, it's still very valid. It might look, I might show up slightly differently now, but I'm still the person I was before. I'm just going through this change and I need support. And it is that looking at that as a support gap now. It's not an
Yeah.
ambition gap, it's a support gap for the things that you need. We talk a lot about these are the things that we can do as parents and how we can show up and how we can advocate for ourselves. But it is a two-way responsibility, isn't it? Once you let your workplace know, they have a real responsibility for what that support looks like for you. And in your report, you said that 66% state that inadequate flexibility is the biggest challenge, and 87% said the same thing is the reason that they won't apply for roles. What can a workplace do to give that adequate flexibility for a single parent? How does that look different? What kind of support can they give you in return for you showing up and being honest and transparent with them about what's going on for you?
I think, well, with the whole flexibility piece, there's one thing it can start from the very beginning, which I know you've spoken about before, is having it on the application or job advertisement, have it very clear what flexibility is. Also, understand what your organization's meaning of flexibility is, because a lot of the time this word is thrown around all the time. So get really clear on what actually is flexibility for your organization. What is the culture around it? What does that look like? Is flexibility, I was actually doing a LinkedIn Live today, and I had Dr. Laura Radcliffe on. She made a brilliant point around flexibility. And it's flexibility should not be seen as a fix to a problem. It should just be the given. And
Yeah.
if we can get to a point where we're seeing flexibility is just what we have, and that's what it is. And it's not like by asking for flexibility or asking to work around school hours, you're therefore then actually causing issues or anything like that. That's where we don't want to be. We want to be at the thing where flexibility is something for everyone. Because yes, okay, of course, for single parents is brilliant, but everyone should be benefiting from it, because everyone has their own unique challenges that they're having maybe in their own personal life, and if their work can be more supportive to everyone, be it caring for elderly or whatever it is, it benefits everyone. So really looking at flexibility as not a problem, like something that actually is just given as it's just there to be offered, and you're not having to have these difficult conversations, dishing down with your line manager and thinking, okay, I'm gonna present the case for all of this, which we can talk about as well, how to actually do that. But it would be amazing to think that it isn't this big to do to ask for, can I have flexibility? And then also when it comes to specifically for single parents, what does flexibility look like? Flexibility really is, it's so important for single parents because there is a difference between a single parent being able to progress or stay in a role or having to leave it. Like there really is, because there is that no backup. And for single parents, flexibility is really important. And what it looks like is making sure that things like aren't changing last minute. Because I think sometimes I think flexible is like, oh, more fluidity, but also going the other way and making sure that there's no last minute changes to meetings and things like that. Making sure if possible things are in the core hours as well is really important too. Any last minute changes or things not being within core hours, they're going to have a direct impact onto what's going on outside the single parent's life, which will then bring an impact of stress and coming into the workplace.
I feel flexibility is one of these big contradictions in a way, because actually, as a parent, as a single parent, where maybe actually your time is restricted, and flexibility is not that you want to be able to work all hours and move it whenever you want. Actually, when you can work, typically
Yeah.
how many hours you have to when you can work. So it's having that, almost being able to plan it, be able to plan your work day, being able to, so anything last minute, like you say, meetings come in last minute, they come in at 6 o'clock. That isn't going to support a single parent who's also trying to do dinner and bath time and all of those things, or if their child's sick. These things need to be put in advance so that they can arrange childcare if necessary. They can put things in with the support network that they have at home, as opposed to you're asking for flexibility. You can be on beck and call whenever we want you. That is not what flexibility is. And I think you're right. It's a switch from flexibility is not a benefit. It should be seen as a given. It should be normalized in the workplace for whoever needs it, however they need it, for whatever reason they need it. So yes, I completely agree. Is there anything else a workplace can do specifically for single parents, or they should be doing? And maybe where parents could look for those things to make sure if they're not doing them, they could advocate for themselves to make sure that they are getting the support that they need.
I mean, there's so much workplaces could be doing for single parents. I think it's because at the moment there's such a push, and it's brilliant to see of family-friendly policies being rolled out, and we're seeing brilliant things happening, like maternity coaching, extended parental leave, all of these things happening, which are absolutely brilliant. However, when it comes to policies and different things like that, we need to be looking at them through the lens of a single parent, because a lot of the time, a lot of these policies that are being brought out are with the assumption of there is two parents in the household and there is no additional needs for the kids needed, and there's no elderly care needed, also maybe other caregiving responsibilities. And that is just so far from the reality of the majority, or like many, many families today. Many families are facing so many different challenges, and it's starting to recognize that a family is a lot different, and understanding that different families have diverse needs, and this needs to be reflected in policies, and just broadening the policies so that it's catching everyone rather than
Mhm.
pushing the narrative forward to, if you're not in this certain way, and therefore we can't support you. And a lot of the
Mm.
time it is unintentional. It's not being done purposefully or anything like that. It's just an oversight. But the numbers are there to really back this up. I mean, first of all, in the UK, 104 families are headed up by a single parent. This isn't a niche issue. So if you're saying you're a family-friendly organisation, and nowhere in your policies you're talking about single parenting, divorce, separation, or anything like that, you're leaving out a massive chunk of the families in your organization. So yeah, getting really clear as to your policies and making sure that they're reflecting the needs of single parents. And a great place to start, I always like to signpost people to things that will help. There's a fantastic organization called Single Parent Rights, and they have the HR policy review, which anyone can access, and it has all the different policies through the lens of single parents and what you should be looking at. So if you want to even get more understanding of that, you can go check that out as well. We've also spoken about flexibility as well, making sure that you're really clear on flexibility and what that is, and it's being communicated. And also it is just seeing people as individuals as well, and actually just knowing how to have those conversations. And that starts with the line managers. And line managers, I mean, they get a tough role because, they're getting pressure from the top, pressure from the people below and everything. And they're not being given the training to actually being able to have some of these conversations. So I think offering line manager training is really important, because if line managers understand, first of all, the landscape of single parenthood, because that's also another point. Single parent, I use this term when I'm talking about anyone who's the primary caregiver for their children, be it part-time or full-time. So under the umbrella term of single parents, you'll have co-parents, solo parents, single parents. Day-to-day challenges will be completely different whether you got your children full-time or part-time or other childcare responsibilities. And as a line manager, it's important to understand that. So then you know actually how to speak to your employees and how to actually manage the team in a way that's effective. And you understand the needs of a co-parent is going to be different to the needs of someone who's got 100% full responsibility for their children. That's why line manager training is really, really important. And I think it can go a long way to really embed that culture of understanding, psychological safety, and all these things that we know that are really beneficial. And then a really, really important one is from the research that I did was half of single parents are not working at a level that match their skills and experience. And this stat makes my blood boil. And I just want organizations to hear that. You're just wasting talent. And there's so much you can do. One thing is looking at your career progression pathways, looking at if you're offering training and things like that, is it off-site? Is it suddenly on at 9 to 5 and actually with some of the single parenting team only work 9 to 3 is on days that they work, all of these things, anything that's out with the normal working the passion of a single parent, making sure that it can, whatever training you're offering, it can be adaptable to them as well. And also being vocal from leaders from the top, actually talking about if they are single parents, their single parent experience and normalizing that actually, do you know what, you can be a single parent and be head of a department. Surprise, surprise. But this is a stigma. A lot of people will be like, oh, that's not possible. And so it's just anything to break it down, making sure that career progression pathways are clear for single parents to see, and also the line managers know how to facilitate that as well. And not assuming that, oh, they're too busy, they wouldn't have time to progress in their career. Absolutely. If anyone wants to progress in their career and further themselves, it's a single parent, but it just needs to be done in a way that actually is manageable and supports their additional caregiving responsibilities at home as well.
For my single parent friends, they are the ones who are so motivated. They are the most ambitious. They are ones who are wanting to go up. Because they have to and they want to, and it's something that is a needs must. They are the most ambitious ones. So do not overlook them at all. And I think you're right. It comes back to all of this assumption, and actually, what we need to start doing is breaking these things down into almost the nitty gritty. Really looking into the policies, really looking into what line managers understand about the different parents in their team, because like you said, that responsibility can look very different per person. And then looking at it from the point of view of, what does that look like as you go up? Is there any good examples of that throughout the organization? Can we shine a light on that? And I think those case studies are a really great way and an easy way for an organization to be able to show that there is progression opportunities there to support single parents in their workplaces. It is really hard. I do know that line managers do get it from all angles, and it is
Mhm.
hard, but there are people out there like yourself to be able to support them in that and to give them the training that they need, because actually, having that bit of understanding will help them with that, not have so many assumptions that could be around this issue. Well,
Mhm.
fabulous. Thank you so much, Orla. I know we had lots there from what parents can do themselves, also what the workplaces could do. Is there any one takeaway that you'd like our single parent audience to take away with them about how they should feel about being, a single parent at work and their confidence in that?
Yeah, I think one is I want you to hear that 1 in 4 families are single parent families. So maybe there's none in your social group, but I promise you there are so many other single parents out there trying to navigate making work and life and everything manage it together and are feeling the same pressures that you are. So one, I just really want you to hear that. And two is knowing that it's important for you to recognize what support you need and it's okay to ask for it. Push past your ego or, what your perception is of asking for help or what others will think of you. See as asking for support as an asset that you can do and it can help you further your career rather than, trying to further your career and then falling like I did completely off the wagon or burning out because it's just not manageable sometimes without the support. So I think that's what I want them to hear. Is like you're not alone and you're absolutely okay to ask for support. And it's okay to advocate for yourself in the workplace as well. I think that's something that I think more single parents should feel confident to do. Not feel like just because they're single parent, they're not allowed to ask for certain things or people will think a certain way about them. Ask for the help you need. You deserve it more than anyone, in my eyes. Of course, I'm biased, so of course I'm going to say that.
No, but you're absolutely right. And it's that stigma, isn't it? I think if you're not going to be able to break down that stigma if we haven't got information and knowledge and experience around that. So sharing your story, sharing with other people, getting a group of single parents together to talk about this, to knock on the doors and to break it down, I think will break down those barriers and get more people to understand what it's really like. So thank you so much for your insight and experience today, Ola. For anybody who would like to know more about you or learn some more words of wisdom from you, whereabouts can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm on Instagram. I also have my podcast, Single Parent Recess, and I've done a few episodes all about navigating your career as a single parent. I definitely signpost people to those, have a listen to those. And then also I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very vocal about this on LinkedIn. That's what employers should be doing. And I do monthly LinkedIn live panels. And so I definitely would recommend to check out my Instagram, find me on LinkedIn or my podcast. Also I have a website. So I'm all over the place. But you can find me on all those things and hear me talk about, well, one, supporting yourself as a single parent, but then also in terms of businesses, what they can be doing as well, because it's a two-pronged approach here.
It absolutely is. Well, thank you so much, Orla. The single parent biggest cheerleader and support. So I think everyone needs to come to you and back you and share their stories with you. So thank you so much. And we will speak to you again soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.